The Tunnel of Death, Chapter 4 of Holographic Multiverse. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into Chapter 4 of Holographic Multiverse called The Tunnel of Death. And honestly, this one's going to mess with your head in the best possible way. If you've been following along, you know we just went through that intense near-death experience in Chapter 3. Well, Chapter 4 is what happens after. When you're lying in bed at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, and your brain won't shut up about the biggest questions in existence. Coming home to questions you can't answer. So our narrator gets home after that terrifying hospital experience, and you'd think he'd just want to collapse and forget everything, right? Wrong. The moment he walks through his door, all those horrifying images from his near-death experience come flooding back. There's this really vulnerable moment where he's just standing there, finger in his mouth like a nervous kid, trying to convince himself it was just a small crisis. But you know that feeling when something huge happens and you try to pretend it didn't? Yeah, that's not working here. He wants to sleep, hit that reset button we all wish we had. But sleep? Not happening. Instead, his mind decides this is the perfect time for the deepest, most terrifying philosophical deep dive of his life. The 3 a.m. existential crisis we've all had. Have you ever had one of those nights where you're lying there and suddenly your brain goes, "Hey, you know what? Let's think about death." That's exactly what happens here, except turned up to 11. He starts thinking about life as this great story without any real shape or direction. Just this river flowing toward one inevitable destination. And then comes this absolutely chilling realization. We're all born dying. From the moment we take our first breath, we're heading toward our last one. He thinks about memory, specifically his first conscious memory of his grandmother's room and light. It's like he's trying to anchor himself to something solid while contemplating the void. And then there's this brutal observation about middle age. How you're constantly bouncing between baptisms and funerals, sometimes in the same week. Life and death aren't opposites, they're dance partners. But here's the line that really got me. Death is an event that exclusively happens to others until it occurs to you. Think about that for a second. Every single death you've ever heard about, witnessed, or mourned, it was always someone else. Until one day, it won't be.
The courage to look into the abyss. Now, most of us would be having a panic attack at this point. But our narrator does something incredible. He makes a conscious choice to go deeper. He literally closes his eyes and decides to think about death. That takes guts. He explores the two most terrifying possibilities: complete annihilation, like you never existed at all, and total loss, losing everything you've ever been, known, or loved all at once. And the worst part? Nobody can tell you which one it is, or if it's something completely different. He imagines different scenarios: a bridge, a tunnel through darkness, the spirit separating from the body. But then comes this beautiful, desperate whisper of hope. Maybe death is an incredibly good adventure. It's like whistling in the dark, but sometimes that's all we've got. The digital quest for answers. After a night of zero sleep and maximum existential dread, he gets sent home early from work. And what does he do with this time? He goes on the most intense research binge you can imagine, trying to make sense of that light tunnel he saw during his near-death experience. The spiritual side. Maybe there's more. First, he discovers this 15th century painting by Bosch called Ascent of the Blessed, and it shows the exact same tunnel of light he experienced. Suddenly, he's reading hundreds of near-death experience accounts, people from all over the world describing the same thing: tunnels of light, meetings with deceased relatives, overwhelming peace, and being told to go back. This is comforting, right? It suggests there's something more, some kind of continuity, purpose, meaning. But then his skeptical mind kicks in. Why didn't he reach the end of the tunnel?
What's actually there? And honestly, he struggles to really visualize this supposed spiritual realm. The scientific reality check. Then he flips to the scientific explanations, and they're pretty convincing, but also kind of brutal. Oxygen deprivation, brain chemistry going haywire, endorphins flooding your system as your brain shuts down. The tunnel? Just your visual cortex misfiring as it dies. That profound peace everyone talks about? Just biochemistry's final gift before the lights go out permanently. For someone with a scientific mindset, this explanation feels solid, rational, and honestly kind of comforting in its certainty.
The philosophical rabbit hole. But then he realizes that science and spirituality are just 2 points on this massive spectrum of human thought about consciousness and death. So he dives into philosophy, and things get really wild. Materialism says we're just meat computers. When the machine breaks, that's it. Game over. No respawn. Dualism argues we have souls that are separate from our bodies and can survive death. This is where most religious beliefs about afterlife come from. Idealism suggests that reality itself is mental, like we're all living in the Matrix, and death might actually be waking up from the simulation. Each perspective makes sense on its own, but they completely contradict each other. How do you choose? The terrifying realization. After all this research, diving through centuries of human thought, scientific studies, spiritual testimonies, philosophical treatises, he comes to a devastating conclusion. Nobody in the world could give the right answer about life and death. Think about that. We can split atoms, send people to space, cure diseases, but we can't answer the most fundamental question about existence. We can't even define exactly when life ends or what consciousness actually is. And this leads to the darkest moment in the chapter. He actually considers dying just to find out the answer. That's how frustrated and desperate the search for truth becomes. The desire to know becomes so overwhelming that it almost becomes destructive. The exhausted retreat. Finally, he hits a wall. Physical exhaustion from no sleep, mental exhaustion from the impossible quest, spiritual exhaustion from staring into the void. His body is stiff, he feels guilty about wasting time, and there's this profound sense of emptiness. So he makes a choice that might seem like giving up, but I think it's actually incredibly wise. He decides to go back to normal life. He acknowledges that death is universal. His ancestors faced it, and he will too. He accepts that humans are like an insignificant point in the universe, and maybe these grand philosophical questions are just too big for our finite minds. He reframes his near-death experience as a bad episode, something to be filed away and forgotten so he can function. He literally decides to turn a new page and stop looking back. Why this chapter matters so much. Here's the thing. This isn't just one guy's post-trauma research binge. This is every single one of us at some point in our lives. We've all had those 3 a.m. moments where the big questions feel too big, too scary, too important to ignore. The chapter is brilliant because it doesn't give us answers. Instead, it shows us the very human process of seeking answers and the emotional toll that search takes. It validates something we don't talk about enough. Sometimes looking away from the abyss isn't cowardice, it's survival. The universal experience. What makes this chapter so powerful is its honesty about the human condition. We all live with this background awareness of mortality, but most of the time we're successful at not thinking about it. Until something, a close call, a loss, a random 3 a.m. moment, forces us to confront it. And when we do confront it, we discover the same maddening reality. Despite all our knowledge, technology, and wisdom, the biggest question remains unanswered. We're all walking around on this planet, living these complex lives, building relationships and careers and dreams,
while carrying this fundamental uncertainty about what it all means and where it's all heading. The beautiful, terrifying mystery. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the search itself is what makes us human. The fact that we can even ask these questions, even if we can't answer them. The fact that we care enough about existence to lose sleep over it. The tunnel of death isn't just about dying. It's about the courage it takes to live fully while knowing that everything is temporary. It's about finding meaning in the questions, even when answers don't exist. What do you think? So here's what I want to know from you. Have you had those 3 a.m. existential moments? How do you handle the big, unanswerable questions? Do you dive deep like our narrator, or do you have ways of finding peace with the mystery? And maybe most importantly, do you think the search for answers about death is worth the emotional cost? Or is it sometimes better to focus on living and let the mystery be mysterious? Let me know in the comments. These are the kinds of conversations that matter, even if, especially if, we don't have all the answers. If this exploration resonated with you, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into consciousness, existence, and what it means to be human in an uncertain universe. If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into the mysteries of the holographic multiverse, I invite you to check out my book. You can get your copy right now. Just follow the link in the description below. Your support not only helps me create more content, but also fuels this journey of exploration. Want even deeper access? Join my Patreon for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and a free download of my book. As a patron, you'll also receive bonus videos on how I conquered insomnia and anxiety, plus a private 30-minute call with me to explore life's biggest questions together. Don't forget to follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X, for updates, extra content, and mind-expanding discussions. Links are all below. Thanks for going on this journey with me, and remember, whether you're facing your own tunnel of death or just trying to make sense of this wild experience of being alive, you're not alone in the questions. I'll see you in the next video.